In the Valley of Elah, two great armies stood poised for war. On one hill, the soldiers of Israel, led by King Saul. On the other, the formidable Philistines. For 40 days a shadow had fallen over the land, a shadow cast by a single man. His name was Goliath, a champion from Gath, a giant who stood over 9 feet tall. He was a mountain of muscle and bronze, his spear like a weaver's beam, his voice like thunder. Every morning and every evening he would stride out into the valley, his armor glinting in the sun, and issue his challenge. Choose a man and have him come down to me. If he is able to fight and kill me, we will become your subjects. But if I overcome him and kill him, you will become our subjects and serve us. His words echoed across the valley, a taunt that filled the hearts of Israel's strongest warriors with ice-cold fear. Not one man dared to answer. The entire army was paralyzed, their courage shattered by the sight and sound of this one seemingly unbeatable foe. Meanwhile, miles away in the quiet fields of Bethlehem, a young shepherd named David was tending his father's flock. He wasn't a soldier. He was the youngest of his brothers, a boy with a heart full of music and a deep, unwavering faith in his God. His days were spent under the open sky, protecting his sheep from lions and bears, not with a sword and shield, but with a simple sling and a shepherd's staff. His father, Jesse, sent him on an errand to take food to his 3 oldest brothers on the front lines and to see how they were faring. David arrived at the camp just as the armies were drawing up their battle lines. The air was thick with tension and the shouts of soldiers, and then he saw him. He saw Goliath step forward, bellowing his defiant challenge. He saw the reaction of the Israelite soldiers' men trained for war, running in terror. David was stunned. He couldn't believe his ears or his eyes. "Who is this uncircumcised Philistine?" he asked the men around him, "that he should defy the armies of the living God?" His words were overheard and reported to King Saul. The king, desperate for any glimmer of hope, summoned the young shepherd. David stood before Saul, his face full of a conviction that bewildered the weary king. "Let no one lose heart on account of this Philistine," David said, his voice clear and strong. "Your servant will go and fight him." Saul looked at the boy, hardly more than a youth, and shook his head. "You are not able to go out against this Philistine and fight him. You are only a young man, and he has been a warrior from his youth." But David's confidence wasn't in his own strength. It was rooted in his experience and his faith. "Your servant has been keeping his father's sheep," he explained. "When a lion or a bear came and carried off a sheep from the flock, I went after it, struck it, and rescued the sheep from its mouth. The Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine." Seeing the unshakable faith in David's eyes, Saul finally agreed. He tried to dress David in his own armor, a heavy bronze helmet and a coat of mail. But it was unfamiliar, cumbersome. David took it off. "I cannot go in these," he said, "because I am not used to them." Instead, he took his shepherd's staff in his hand and walked down to the stream in the valley. There he carefully chose 5 smooth stones, placing them in the shepherd's bag at his side. With his sling in his hand, he walked out to face the giant. Goliath saw him coming and was filled with contempt. A boy, ruddy and handsome, approaching him with a stick. "Am I a dog that you come to me with sticks?" Goliath roared, cursing David by his gods. "Come here, and I'll give your flesh to the birds and the wild animals." The armies held their breath. On one side, a symbol of human power, arrogance, and brute force. On the other, a young shepherd, armed with nothing but a sling and a handful of stones. But David was armed with something far greater. He shouted back, his voice ringing with a power that came from beyond himself. You come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hands, and I'll strike you down. The whole world will know that there is a God in Israel. All those gathered here will know that it is not by sword or spear that the Lord saves. For the battle is the Lord's, and he will give all of you into our hands. With those words, David ran quickly toward the battle line to meet him. As he ran, he reached into his bag, took out a stone, and placed it in his sling. He began to swing it, faster and faster, a blur of motion. He let the stone fly. It cut through the air with a piercing whistle, striking the giant squarely on the forehead. The stone sank into his skull, and the impossible happened. The mountain of a man, the champion of Gath, stumbled. He swayed for a moment, his eyes wide with shock, and then crashed face down on the ground with a thunderous thud that shook the earth. A stunned silence fell over the valley, broken only by the sound of David running towards his fallen foe. Without a sword of his own, he drew Goliath's massive blade from its sheath and ended the giant's challenge forever. When the Philistines saw that their hero was dead, they turned and fled in terror. A great shout rose up from the army of Israel as they charged after their enemies, their fear replaced by a victorious roar. That day a shepherd boy taught a nation and the world a timeless lesson. The giants we face in life, the fears that paralyze us, the challenges that seem impossible, the obstacles that mock our strength, they are not defeated by our own power. They are defeated when we place our trust in God, when we face our battles not in our own name, but in His, because the battle, always and forever, belongs to the Lord. What giants are you facing today? Remember David. Remember that with faith, even the smallest stone can bring down the mightiest giant. Thank you for watching. If this story inspired you, please like, share, and subscribe for more content that explores the power of faith.